So, about 2 weeks ago now, Ethan Battle commented on one of my past Markiplier theories, asking for a full breakdown of the story of In Space with Markiplier. And now that In Space with Markiplier Part 2 released, I feel like I owe it to him and to all of y'all to actually make a breakdown of both parts of In Space with Markiplier. So we start off seeing this cool shot of the Invincible 2. Now it is currently unknown what happened to the first Invincible, but somehow or some way the first Invincible ship got destroyed, so then they made an Invincible 2. You are the captain. Well, you must be a pretty famous captain anyways.
Huge fan, been following your career for quite a while now.
Then from there, you're greeted by Markiplier, and he gives you the tour of the spaceship. And while you're getting the tour of the spaceship, you end up meeting one of my favorite groups of I wouldn't call it a trio, whatever a trio is, but instead of 3 people, it's 4 people. And that is Engineer Markiplier, Gunter, Celiona, and Bert. I might have missaid those names, I'm not too sure. But I just kind of like the chemistry that these 4 give each other, where you have Engineer Mark and Gunter having the same mind process of explosives can solve everything. Then you have Celiona here trying to keep the team together, trying to be smart about everything. And then you just have Bert just being Bert.
What if we back the ship up into the wormhole? What if we pop her in reverse and just undo all the wormhole stuff?
Okay, Mark, I owe you an apology because obviously you're not the stupidest person on this ship.
Or, hear me out. Beep. Beep.
No, it's not up to you. It's not up to you. And I'm sorry, it's not up to you.
But now let's get back on track. So pretty much after the tour, you give your amazing speech.
Warp core engaged.
And then you and Markiplier both go into your own separate bed, sleeping, passed out container things, whatever you call them. But right before your door closes, Markiplier tries to warn you of something.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, it's not a problem, of course, but just before you go to sleep, be absolutely sure. Do not...
Wormhole opening in.
But to be honest, that line right there doesn't really have much to do or to help with the lore. What really matters is what comes after that line.
Wormhole opening in 10, 9.
Those couple of lines I just now showed you already proves the reason the wormhole's there in the first place. For those of y'all who haven't actually seen In Space with Markiplier yet, first off, go watch that and then watch this video, because this is not supposed to be a replacement for watching the actual video itself. Please still go check out Markiplier and all his projects and all that before watching this video. But if you have already watched it, but you're just confused or something, then the wormhole's pretty much the root of all their problems. It's the reason you, as the captain, is keeping on resetting and resetting this timeline. So that line right there actually proved that y'all, your team and you, are actually the ones who created the wormhole in the first place, so y'all can go to sleep, activate that wormhole, and then use the wormhole to quickly travel to a new planet that y'all found to colonize. So far in this video, I've kind of been summarizing all of In Space with Markiplier, so I'm going to start skipping through a couple parts and only start picking out specific details that actually mean something. So whenever you first start to kind of reset and you're trying to fix the ship, and then there's like all this bad stuff going off and going wrong, and you usually have like 3 main options. You can either wake the crew, You can send Mark in, or you can fix it from the outside. Fixing it from the outside always is just you pretty much killing yourself and getting lost in the abyss of space. But if you choose any of the other ones, they each activate their own sort of ending before leading you to one beginning video, which is called Head Towards the Light. And once you click Head Towards the Light, that is pretty much like resetting, like all the stuff that you did before clicking Head Towards the Light doesn't matter at that point. It just mattered on what you felt like seeing. All of those choices bring up to this one video, Head Towards the Light, and then you go from there. By the way, here's the map of the first In Space with Markiplier, just in case you want to get any endings or anything. So from there, you and Markiplier become self-aware that the fact that y'all are immortal, and you can choose to either jump in again, which will be like a loop, like video after video after video, and it will just like keep on repeating the same video until you eventually end up clicking emergency meeting. Oh yeah, and before that you end up getting the blue crystal that lets you time travel through different dimensions. Just a tiny detail. Then from there it gets really complicated because you start doing all sorts of crazy things. You end up meeting an alien which takes you on a road trip. You end up going into a detective type dimension and having a showdown with the actual wormhole itself. Also, little weird detail here. Both In Space with Markiplier Part 1 and in Part 2, whenever you're in the detective type scenes, they both talk about your baby blue eyes. So maybe that gives us a hint to who we're playing as, if like anybody else in the Markiplier universe has like light blue eyes or baby blue eyes as they describe it very specifically. But who knows, that might be a theory for another day. Eventually, as you're traveling through time and space itself, you end up going into the pretty much a 911, but for space. While you're there, you end up meeting this lady who dies to an air vent. Is what I would say if she actually died, but you can very clearly see her future self trying to go back in time to stop you and Markiplier from shutting down the warp core. Also, notice how she has the same blue crystal as you on her wrist, and that's how she's also able to time travel through dimensions along with you to try to stop you. You actually end up giving her this, or either that or she like forcefully takes it from you in Space with Markiplier Part 2 whenever you're traveling through the wormhole and you travel to the past with her. She's the one who ends up shooting Markiplier in almost all of the endings. However, just like with her, Markiplier is not dead either. Not only does he survive the gunshot, but he also has his own future self trying to stop you as well. He's not teaming up with the other future version of the other girl, but he's still also trying to stop you. Because at the time he thinks you're the one who's like messing up all these timelines and causing this paradox. But the truth is that you find out in Space with Markiplier Part 2 is that really he's the one who caused all this by building the warp core in the first place. And that is why you spend all of In Space with Markiplier Part 2 hopping through dimension to dimension, trying to get to past Markiplier so you can warn him not to build the warp core. That way the universe ends up exploding, and therefore the timeline resets, and you end up going back to where the timeline first started to get reset and reset over and over again at the beginning of In Space with Markiplier Part 1. You wake up from your sleep, and you arrived at your planet, and you're ready to colonize it. Everything's good, everything's perfect. Happy ending. Roll credits, and roll Darkiplier end credit scene. Now, I don't want to talk too much about this Darkiplier end credit scene, mainly because I'm going to have a new theory video coming up sometime in the future, talking all about this end credit scene and all the potential for it, and pretty much what it means for the future of the Markiplier lore. But yeah, all that is for a different theory video. Back to the task at hand. So yeah, the canon ending, I'm pretty sure, is the grandpa ending. That hasn't been confirmed, but I think it fits if the grandpa ending is the actual canon ending. And by grandpa ending, I mean the one that has future old Markiplier. Literally the only one with future old Markiplier. Now, I know I kind of did a bit more of an analysis with In Space with Markiplier Part 1 than with Part 2. I just barely summarized Part 2 just now. But to be honest, the reason I did that is because I still have even more Markiplier theories coming out that will be explaining any of the other tiny details that y'all might be curious or interested in. So if there's any other details that I didn't cover, first go check out my past theories to see if I covered those details that you're curious about in those videos. But if I didn't cover them in those videos, feel free to comment them down below so I can talk about them in my future upcoming theories for In Space with Markiplier Part 2. But anyways, that's going to be it for this video. I know In Space with Markiplier is kind of confusing, so I hope this video kind of helped you understand it a bit more. And with that said, thank y'all for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video.